Hello, friend. Welcome to another episode of Artworks for Teachers. I'm Susan Riley, your host, and today is December 22nd, 2022, if you're listening live. And that means we're really, really close to winter break if you are not already on winter break. And so what I wanted to share with you today was how to truly unplug during your time off. Here's the thing. When I know that when I go on vacation, I can sometimes be a little challenged to actually take off. And see if this sounds familiar. You leave your classroom, you're so excited for break. And then by the time that break is over and you're headed back after a week or maybe two, if you're really lucky, it feels as though you've had no time off at all. Everything flew and you're right back into the thick of it. If that sounds familiar, it's because we all have a tendency to not unplug during breaks. We check emails. We're constantly thinking about our jobs. We're planning lessons. We're catching up on things that we got behind on during the regular school year. And so a break simply becomes another process for us to work, albeit maybe at a slower pace. And that's not really the point of a break, right? So today I want to walk you through the process that I learned on how to unplug truly and enjoy your break and come back refreshed and ready to go without feeling overwhelmed when you come back. That's the key, right? Because how often have we said, when I leave for a vacation, when I come back, I got to spend another 2 weeks catching up on everything I missed, right? So this process is actually, it's not going to be like that. I was skeptical at first, but let me tell you, I've tried it and it works. So I want to share that with you today. Now, before we get started in that, what does the science say about taking breaks? Right? I think we all know that research tells us that taking breaks is important. We've heard that a lot, but just how important is it? Well, I did a little digging and it turns out that breaks, time away from the job, whether it's a weekend or whether it's a full vacation, can have physical and mental health benefits. People who take vacations have lower stress, less risk of heart disease, a better outlook on life, and more motivation to achieve goals, all of which sounds really good, right? Turns out that overwork, for those of us who are type A's and really like to overachieve, which sometimes manifests as overworking, leads to lower creativity and problem solving, less productivity, and no net career benefits. This was stunning to me. People who overwork had no net career benefits. They didn't get raises. They didn't get promotions. They didn't see a progression in their careers any faster or at even an equal pace to those who took their vacation time. So when we say that vacations are important, there's a lot of reasons for that. How many of you are looking for a productivity hack wherever you can get one, right? In order to save time. I know that I do that all the time. Well, it turns out if we don't take vacations, we're actually less productive. So it's a mindset shift that is hard to make sometimes and hard to understand, that by taking off, you're actually going to be more productive. But it's true. It's so true. Less is more. So now that we know that we have to have time off, right? It's important. Here's what's really interesting, and something else that I found when I was digging into the research for this episode, that even though we know we need time off and we may take time off, we don't know what to do with ourselves when we have time off, right? And I can tell you this from personal experience with our own company. Our company provides unlimited leave. Like unlimited personal leave. If you want to take off for 6 weeks in the summer to go to the south of France, you can go ahead and do that. So long as your work gets done, whether before or after all your responsibilities are taken care of, you have unlimited leave. You take off as much as you want. You have unlimited sick leave. So if you get sick or if one of your little ones gets sick, people in our company have unlimited sick leave. And here's how that plays out in reality. I have to force the people on our team to take vacations. I get to a period of time in the year where I start looking at people and their records and how much vacation time that they've taken. And if they haven't taken it, I force them to take 2 weeks off. I have a forced sabbatical for my leadership team that in 2 weeks in September, they must take off. There is no doubt about it. They know that that is coming. We shut down our offices between Christmas and New Year's every year. We also shut down for a week-long period of time, usually between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like there are periods of time where I have to force my employees to take off. And some of that is because there's a lot of work to do, right? And you don't want to get behind. And I understand that. And so that is something that we're constantly evolving with. And I think in schools, particularly with a subs shortage and a teacher shortage, we are all very mindful of the fact that taking off can be a burden to others. But there's, as cliche as it is, you got to put your oxygen mask on first in order to help other people. And so we can plan carefully and take those vacation times as needed. And if they're built into our schedules, like this upcoming winter break, we have to take advantage of it. And if we don't know what to do with our time off, that can be tricky. And that's what leads us to then working again at that slower pace. And it's what we want to avoid, right? So that's why the quality of your time off really matters. So, according to the Harvard Business Review, passive rest and relaxation are not effective for recovering from the day-to-day stresses that build up. So, watching Netflix for 5 days on ends and just binging that, as amazing as that sounds, that kind of passive rest and relaxation isn't actually doing us any good long term. And so, when people talk about burnout, we've talked about this a lot, the idea of taking a day off isn't as effective as we want it to be, right? Or just take some time off and rest and relax. What does that mean, right? Laying around, watching TV or reading, while it sounds lovely and it is a part of rest and relaxation, right, is a part of healing and getting that vacation time. It can't be the only thing, right? So there is, according to the Harvard Business Review, there's actually some things that do work, which is to set goals for your time off. And it turns out that people who set goals for their breaks are 8 to 13% happier when they return to work than those who didn't. Now, one caveat for this, it's not goals for work. These are personal goals that you set for your time off. And you don't want to treat these goals like a to-do list. You want to be flexible with them. But certainly to have like a plan for what you want to do on your time off can be really, really helpful for maximizing your time off and having that rest and relaxation that you really deserve and that your body is craving. Right? So one way to enjoy a better break is through an unplug process. Now, once I started implementing this unplug process, which I'm going to say was maybe 2 years ago at this point, I started to see bigger breakthroughs in my business, certainly, but also more importantly to me in my personal health and in my own well-being, my mental well-being and my creative game. I was way more creative when I did this unplug process than when I didn't. To the point where when I leave for a vacation, everybody gets nervous because they know that when I come back, I'm going to have 1,000 new creative ideas that I'm going to want to get like going and get really excited about. And they all kind of panic a little bit like, uh-oh, what's she going to come back with? But that's such a great problem to have, right? And I want you to think about that in your own life. What if you could come back to school, wherever you are, rested, truly rested, rejuvenated, creative, and ready to take on that second half of the year? Like that is what I want for you from this unplug process. It's 5 steps. It's pretty simple, but we're going to walk through it. I say that the steps are simple. The steps are simple. The implementation can be tricky. So I want to walk through it with you today. I swear by this, and I really hope that you give this a try while you're on break as well. So here we go. The first step to this process is to close out your work as best as you can prior to leaving. So try to get as much done as you can, get it off your plate before you leave for break. And sometimes for me, that means that I'm going to stay late the day before I leave for break. Even though I'm busting to get out of there, but I want to make sure that everything's cleaned up as much as possible so that it's not on my brain for the rest of break. So close out as much as you possibly can for whatever you cannot get done. Make a list of the top 3 priorities for when you return. That's it. And then leave that on your desk. Do not take it with you. Just write it down so it gets it out of your mind. Know that it's there for when you get back, and then leave it. Okay. So that's part 1. Close out your work as best as you can. Leave your top 3 priorities for when you return on your desk, and then close out. Put up an out of office notification on your email and stick to it. Now, here's the thing about this particular step. Make sure that your out of office email notification has boundaries to it. I am out of the office from this date until this date. I will return on this date and will answer emails in the order in which they were received. So I will be getting back to you. Thank you so much for your patience. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful holiday. Be very clear and upfront that you are not going to be available for that period of time, and stick to it. Do not check your emails when you are on break. This is the hardest step, I think, especially for someone like me who answers emails very, very quickly because I want to make sure that people are taken care of. I'm going to actually take this a step further, and this is what I had to do for myself in order for me to finally stop checking those emails. I had to remove the email app from my smartphone or from my devices. Okay. It is a detox process. You're going to want to check that. Some people say just move your email, icon or whatever to your last screen, which is fine, but I actually had to remove it so that I could not check it on my devices unless I purposefully went to my laptop and opened up a browser to open up Gmail, right? Which was a pain. So that is going to take a couple of days to detox from, but it's going to change your world. That email thing alone is going to change your world. Now, if you absolutely cannot totally let go of email, like if you're an administrator and you're on call, like if something really terrible happens or if you have an emergency or something like that, totally understand. Here's how you avoid that. Avoid the email trap. Set up a vacation email address for yourself. Just, get a free email handle from Gmail or whatever. For a vacation email just for yourself that only you know about, and then create a set of filters or rules in your work email that forwards those particular emails, whatever the rules are, to your vacation email. So that way you can have your vacation email account on your phone or your device or whatever and easily access it. If you set up a set of rules, like I only want to your email, your work email, if you set up the rule that anything that contains the word emergency forwards to your vacation email account. That way, whatever it is, you can set the parameters, whatever your parameters are. Keep them to a minimum. Try to keep at least less than 5 if you absolutely can as rules for what gets forwarded. But this way, you can feel like, okay, if something really terrible happens or if something I absolutely have to reply to comes in, it's going to get forwarded to my vacation email and I can stay on top of it and everything else can wait and just be there for when I return. That is a nice little happy medium step for those of us who absolutely cannot close out of email directly. And that was a life changer for me. For me and our company, there are some things, financially or contracts, things that have to kind of go on even if I'm on vacation. So that vacation email forwarder was a life changer for me because I knew the rest of it could just sit, but this is the stuff that if it comes in, I should really answer. It didn't take up too much time. I'm still on break and I know that I'm covered if I absolutely have to answer something. So just keep that in mind. I found that to be a really super helpful tip. Step 3, create a list of personal goals for your time off. So this goes back to the research of having a plan for your break, right? So create a list of goals and physically write them down on a piece of paper. Now, here's how I like to blend my goals. I want to include some time for rest, some items for rest, whether that's reading a book or watching Netflix series or whatever it is. Include some items for rest, some items for play, an item or two for service, and some items for creativity. So for me, here's what that looks like. For items for rest, it's finishing the last 2 books in the series that I've been working on, catching up on the Netflix series that just dropped on Harry and Meghan, and perhaps even sleeping in every day without an alarm. That is my goals for rest. So waking up when my body is ready to wake up. So that's the items for rest. For play, make sure that I play at least 2 rounds of Scrabble with my daughter and my mom when they're here over the holidays. Make sure that I get outside, and if there's a snowstorm, be able to play in it. If not, to be able to go out and take my dog for a walk and enjoy that playtime with her. Maybe even scheduling a fun event to go do with my husband while we're here on break together. For service, I would maybe volunteer in a soup kitchen or volunteer at our local arts council for the holiday of wreaths that they have going on. I usually just pick one item, and it's not for very long. It might be for 2 hours. It might be for a morning, whatever it is, the cookie walk at our church, something that I am serving someone else that is not related to my business or my work or school or anything, right? It's just simply helping people in my community because I want to help people in my community. That does so much for me, and I know it helps my community members. So that's something I usually try to include as well. Here's a slight play on that. Some of you are really serving your students in total, and it takes everything out of you because it feels like you are serving them constantly. Acts of service may not be something that you want to include, and that's totally fine. For me, I just differentiate between the two. It's up to you. And then my final category is items for creativity. So for this particular break, that means that I'm going to take in the Straight No Chaser concert at National Harbor. I'm also going to go visit a local art museum that just opened. And when I'm in New York City over break, I'm going to visit the Guggenheim because I've never been. I've been to a lot of other art museums in New York City, but I've never been to the Guggenheim. So I will be going there. So for me, that's what my break will look like. I've scheduled in some things that I really want to make sure that I follow through with. And then everything else just kind of falls into place, right? I know that I'm going to get busy over break. I know that I'm going to be spending time with family and friends, and there's still time in my goals for all of that, right? And in my holiday break for that. But I have a plan as well for things that are going to recharge me. So again, those categories that I included was a time for rest, a time for play, a time for service, and a time for creativity, right? And you want to write them down on a piece of paper and put that in a place that you're going to see it every day. Because there's nothing like a good checklist, my friends. There's nothing like crossing things off your list when you're done and feeling like you've accomplished something, even if it's just sleeping in until your body is fully recharged. All right, step number 4. Put yourself on a digital sabbatical. So this is beyond just email. If you can, move your social media apps to the last screen on your phone so that you do not see the notifications when they come in. Turn off notification sounds or chimes. And if necessary, put your phone into airplane mode. So again, depends on how strict you need to be for yourself. Some of us are really good with just put the social media apps at the last screen, and then we're not really tempted to take a look at them when we quickly check our phones, right? But some of us need a little extra oomph. And so for that, I say we turn our phones to airplane mode and then have scheduled periods throughout the day where we turn off that airplane mode for notifications for like text messages or phone calls that come in. When I really need the detox and I have to do the airplane mode, I usually schedule a time to check my phone at 9 at noon, at 3, and at 6, and then I put it away. And really, when it's turning that airplane mode off, it's really only off for about 5 minutes. So I can just make sure that I didn't receive a text message or an emergency phone call from my parents or whatever. And then it goes right back onto airplane mode. So I'm not even tempted. It's, again, that digital detox is going to help you unplug from your technology and plug into your life, because your life is sitting here waiting for you and calling to you, and being able to plug into it during these times off is so important for our mental well-being and our physical well-being. So being able to do that digital sabbatical is really helpful. You can always upload all of your pictures from the holidays when you come back at step 5, which I'm getting to in just a second. You don't have to do it that day. If you're not checking your social media feed, you don't feel the fear of missing out, right? So again, it might take you a little while, but it's so good for you when you do it. And it's going to feel so amazing to not have to check that stuff all the time. Step number 5 is to schedule a re-entry segment. Okay, so this is when you start turning everything back on and catching up on a few things and getting yourself ready to tackle the work again with a clear mind. But you're setting a time limit for this, right? Like, you've set a day aside that this is my re-entry date before school starts. So if school starts again on January 3rd, my re-entry date is going to be January 2nd. And I'm only going to do it for 2 hours from 1 to 3 p.m. to just kind of catch up on some stuff, make sure everything's ready to go so that I feel good when I wake up tomorrow morning to go into work. Okay. So it can be 2 hours, it could be a whole afternoon, but when the time is set up, you get it done in that, whatever you get done in that period of time, and then you close it down. Do not extend that period of time. If you set from 1 to 3 p.m. and it's 3:15, shut it down. There is no more after 3. Whatever you got done is what you get done. You can rest easy knowing that you've gotten most of it taken care of, and the rest of it you're going to get to tomorrow. Okay. Now, let me go over those 5 steps again, just as a review. You're going to close out your work the best you can and leave it at work. Then you're going to put up an out of office notice that's really clear with your boundaries. And if you have to, set up an email vacation account so that you can set up some rules in your work email to forward only specific items that you choose that need to be addressed over vacation, but everything else gets left into that out of office notification on your email. 3 is you're going to create a plan for how you want to spend your break. And my recommendation is to divide it into several segments like rest, play, service, and creativity. Then number 4, you're going to put yourself on a digital sabbatical where you're going to take those social media apps, anything that takes your time on your phone, and put it on that last screen. If you absolutely have to, because you can't avoid looking at that, even with it on the last screen, put it into airplane mode and only take it off of airplane mode maybe 3-4 times a day max. And then 5, schedule a re-entry segment. So a period of time where you can start to turn some things back on, check in on some things, get yourself ready before you actually go back into the first full day of work. Now, this process, it works. It really works, but it takes practice. At first, it took me a full week out of a 2-week vacation to really let go and get into that vacation mode, which is troublesome when your vacation is less than 2 weeks. Now it only takes me a day, maybe 2, to really let go and get into vacation mode. So give yourself grace and understanding that this process takes time and that it's going to take a little bit of time for you to unwind. And that's okay. Also, here's another good tip. Let others know that you're going to unplug. And let them know like what your boundaries are. Like, I'm going to set up this out of office. I'm really going to try not to check emails, not to check social media. I want to be present and I want to be focused, and I have this plan and I'm really excited about it. Let people know that that's what you're going to do. They're going to hold you accountable. They're going to check and see, because I've had people on my team do this. They will email me to see if I check the email and get back to them. So they're going to hold you accountable when you want to fall back into those old habits, and that's good. So I think if you try this unplug process, I would love to hear from you on how it went, but not until after you return to work in January, right? So test this out, see if it works for you. Let me know next year in 2023 how it went, and if you're going to try to make some modifications for yourself and what that would be. Next week on the podcast, even though we're all on break, I'm recording a special episode early for you. Next week, I'm going to bring you another process that I use at the new year, every year, journaling for goal setting and goal reaching. I'm going to share some of my personal journals so that you can see and hear how I set up everything to make sure that the goals that I set are goals that I can actually reach for the year ahead so that I can feel like I've actually accomplished something. I'm hoping that that's going to help you in whatever process you use to kick off the new year as well. I do hope, my friend, that you are able to find some rest during this upcoming break period. Now, for those of you who celebrate it like I do, Merry Christmas. And for everyone else, I wish you a season of peace and joy. That's it for me. Merry Christmas, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful break.